Let me know when you start recording.
We're on.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Megan from wholeed.com. Thanks for joining us. And with me tonight is Kym Bartley of Elite College Planning and Prep. And we're here to talk about getting ready for college, the SAT, the ACT, and all the rest of that stuff that families have to do. So, Kym, give us a little background about who you are and about what you do at Elite College Planning and Prep.
Okay, so I started Elite College Planning and Prep so that I could work with a small number of students and position them in the best possible way so they could get into college. So I have a background in teaching. I have a master's degree in English with an emphasis on logic and rhetoric. I taught at Cal Poly and a couple of the local community colleges. I still teach a couple classes. And I started college planning for another company about 2-3 years ago, and I just fell in love with it. I found my niche. So I started my own company, and let's see, I branched off and I started this test prep because it lent itself to my skill set. Good.
Now, you mentioned college positioning, and that's a term that only came on my radar recently. So I'm wondering if you could say more about what college positioning means, because a lot of families know college planning, right? You get hopefully good grades and you take the standardized tests, but tell us more about what positioning means and why families would need positioning.
Well, it's this idea that you start creating a student who's going to be the most well-prepared to be successful in college and most sought after by colleges. So, for example, I just worked with a young man and we talked about volunteering. And he does a lot of leadership. He has sports. He has a couple of clubs on campus, but he doesn't do any volunteering. And so there's a local food bank that was looking for a couple of people, and I said, let's do this, and I go with him, because we're buddies. He's okay. But yeah, it's just one of the ways that you make sure that you have this fleshed out application.
Say that last part again. One of the ways you make sure you
just have this fully fleshed out application where you want, if you have too much basketball or, you're all academic, but you don't have any, volunteer, maybe just you focus so much on the academics and you look a little like a robot. Not
sure. Gotcha. Yeah. So helping students be more three-dimensional as they are as human beings, but might not appear if they're just pursuing one thing at the expense of everything else. Yeah,
exactly. Just like great kids who are going to thrive in a college environment and contribute.
Yeah. So I'm curious because I know when I was applying to college, I didn't get help. My parents maybe helped me proofread my essay, and I'm thinking even just 10 years ago, this wasn't on people's radar that they needed this much help and positioning and preparation for applying to college. What's changed? Why do students need this help now?
Well, a couple of things. So I looked up statistics on the Department of Education's website, and more students are applying to college than ever before. So it's this idea that there's more students and it's more competitive. And then they're just, well, this isn't the greatest thing, but colleges are run like a business, kind of. They want the rank to be high. They want the best of the best. So they're going to pull from the cream of the crop. And given all these applicants, they can do that. So it's up to the student to make sure that they present the best possible version of themselves in this application. And in the essay as well.
Yeah. So it almost sounds like you're saying it's in the same way we talk about a housing market being either a buyer's market or a seller's market. It's now it's a college's market. It's not the student's market right now because there's so many great students to choose from. They can be very selective.
Absolutely. A 4.0 is not not guaranteed you a spot. And again, like in Ivy League schools, now they want humans. They want somebody who's babysat their little brother and studied and done water polo,
And tap dance, probably.
Yeah. And the ACT.
Yeah. Well, that sounds really overwhelming. And if I were a parent with a college-bound student, right now is about the time I would probably want to hide under a rock. So, what's a place you would advise families to start if they're feeling very overwhelmed? What's some way they can start looking at this process and getting things to feel less overwhelming?
Well, other than hire a professional,
Which is an option, which is definitely an option. And if for anybody who's interested, Kym's Facebook page, there's a link to it in our chat on the side. So if you're interested in finding out more about what she does and scheduling a consultation, all that info is there. But sorry to interrupt. So short of that, or along with that.
well, if there's a lot of resources out there, and if a parent has the time and the energy, they can go to college boards. There's a number of websites, right? Like SAP does a great job, and then they can link in with their college counseling offices, high schools, and they do a great job. But they have a lot of students, so it's really up to the parent to advocate for their kiddo. Where else would I start? I'd have them prepping early. It's hard because a lot of students aren't self-motivated to take these tests. So you could find some tests that'd be good.
Yeah. What does early mean? Yeah, and that seems. It's just that in that list you were giving, I'm going, oh, I wouldn't be sure what to do first. But say more about what starting early means. How early is early? Right now we're in the beginning of March. And for a lot of parents, I bet college applications aren't even on their radar, right? I mean, applications for this next year won't be due until the end of November for UCs, or even until December or January for a lot of private universities. So what does early really mean?
Okay. Let's see. If I could go back in time and do it again with my son, probably for sophomore year, I would start preparing for the PSAT. And I wouldn't make a big deal of it, but I'd let him know that these tests are important. Again, colleges are businesses. So that to do that, I would make sure that his summers were filled with not just fun stuff, but also educational, some volunteer opportunities. Let's see, I do career planning. And then junior year, I do the SAT and ACT prep. I'd have them take the test more than once. Essay planning early, there's so many things that you can do to prepare early so that you don't stress out senior year. And that's what I do. Yeah.
And you were talking about student motivation, and it seems to me that if students were starting earlier on some of this, they would be more motivated. For example, if they had kind of an idea of what careers were possible or where they were heading, it's a lot more motivating to apply to college. It's a lot more motivating, right? Because you're thinking, oh, this is in the path to becoming whatever it is, a surgeon or the designer of the next iPhone. And then that becomes more realistic. Instead of mom and dad want me to go to college and I know I'm supposed to go to college. Do you find that with your students, that they get that internal motivation when they kind of see the reality of a career path opening up?
I do, and that's part of my job. Is I show them college culture. I show them the potential with the career choices that they're interested in. But starting early for a kiddo is tough. They're young. They want to have fun. They want to enjoy school, and they're already maxed out homework. So in that regard, it's helpful to have some sort of test prep set up. They're accountable. It's a rare student that's self-motivated to take tests on their spare time.
Sure. So speaking of tests, let's talk about the upheaval. So many parents are worried and students are worried because of the new SAT. So can you talk a little bit about, first, I guess, just what's the actual importance of these standardized tests? I mean, I've heard conflicting things. How important is it really to prepare well and to get a competitive score on either the SAT or the ACT?
It's pretty important. important. Because, okay, if I owned a school, hypothetically, right? And the average scores that I took in for my students were between, on the ACT, 28 and 32, then I'm not going to damage my rank by taking in somebody with an 18 or a 20.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, that was not how I was thinking about it all, but it makes perfect sense. From the business standpoint, you're actually lowering your clout as a university or as a college. Oh, wow.
That's private school.
Yeah.
And public. You want people to want to come to your school, so you put together the best of the best. Because that's what schools select students based on these models. So the test scores are important, GPA is important, and then you know essay is everything. That's the one chance they have to say, here's who I am. I have a little test anxiety, and I had a rocky time in 10th grade, but I'm a great kid, and I'm going to thrive in your school.
Yeah, and what's your sense? Are more schools leaning toward that holistic approach? I know the UCs make that really, really clear. They're very big on saying, "Hey, we have a holistic approach, and with your essay, we really want to know if there's some reason why your grades completely flopped in 10th grade." And then you tell this wonderful, moving story about how that's the year you helped your grandmother fulfill her goal of running a marathon. Oh, we're all so inspired. But can you speak some to that? Is that becoming more the trend to take a holistic approach?
I think so. I mean,
yeah.
I have students in the past that didn't knock it out of the park in the ACT, but they had an high GPA because they were hard workers. They were tenacious.
Yeah.
And they had great essay and had great extracurriculars, and we got into great schools. So yeah, I do.
It seems like they would almost have to, just with the applicant pool, the way it is. It's almost similar, it seems like, to having a resume and applying for a job, and you've hit all the points, you've got all the experience, but then you write the cover letter that just shows that passion and shows how you stand out from the crowd. It almost seems, with so many students applying for these spots, the essay is only going to get more important. I mean, the scores will get more important. I mean, everything is more emphasized. You have to have a winning application in all respects, it seems like.
I always think of it like a filtering process. So if student is applying to my school, the first thing I do is see if they fall in my criteria for the test scores. And then the GPA. And then I read their essays and their supplemental materials. And then I check their extracurriculars. And at the end of that, I'll pull from that pool. And it's a much smaller pool.
Absolutely. Can we get back to talking a little bit about test prep? I'm curious what your thinking is. So a lot of families have been saying to me lately, maybe we'll just skip the SAT because it's new and we don't want to be guinea pigs. Maybe we'll just take the ACT instead. And the ACT is much more widely accepted and recognized than it used to be. I think a lot of families used to overlook it. But what's some helpful advice you could give families about taking either test? Is one test kind of better suited to certain students, or is it fine to take either? Should you take both?
Well, the SAT changed. So we're still figuring out which students it fits best for. It's not an easy test. Neither is. But the ACT is a known entity. So we're going with that with a lot of students because nobody wants to be the guinea pig. Although I have a couple students in my test prep course right now that chose the new SAT. They just took some sample tests and they said, that's the style I like. Historically, SAT was a better choice for people who were verbal, had great logic, ACSA, and then ACT, because it has a science section, was great for math and science, STEM. And so that's changing. And it's good. it really, gosh, it's weird. You see a kid and you think they're going to excel on one, and then they pick up the other test and knock it out of the park. So it's just a matter of trying both in a sample session, and then figuring out what works for you.
So that seems like a smart plan to take both when you can early on, right, so you can really see and not to try to judge. Yeah, I'm really encouraged by the new SAT essay. I like the look of it. I like that it's more about analysis, right? They give you a text and they say, how does this writer support his argument? And then you have to go through and talk about rhetoric and all those things that you studied, that you specialized in, which is much closer to literary analysis. It's much closer to what they do in English class than the old essay was. So I'm encouraged by that. But yeah, it's tough to be the first group that has to do it. And the students shouldn't have any concern about where the ACT will be accepted, right? It's accepted at almost every school, or is there a difference anymore?
No. Every school that I've looked at takes both. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because it used to feel like it was the younger brother, the kid brother that not as many schools were interested in. But I'm interested in the reasons they changed the SAT too. And one of the things I've read is that so many colleges and universities discounted that they didn't care about your essay score in the SAT because they blatantly said that isn't a good indicator of your writing skills. And I think that shows even more what you were saying, that the personal statement essay is so key, right? Colleges know what's up. Some essay you only have 25 minutes to write on the old SAT, where you have to try to put together examples and force them to fit. We don't care. That's not the kind of writing we're looking for. So can you talk some about when you do essays with your students when you're working on college applications, what mistakes you see them making, or how they should be preparing for this?
I think that students should think about what part of themselves they want to best present. So oftentimes students will say, I don't know what to write about. And I think, well, you're such a great kid. Why don't you talk about your love for, fill in the blank, your little sister.
Yeah. And
then tie it into a larger idea about how, caring for your little sister allows you to find your passion. This is what you want to go to college for. So I've just sort of worked with students to make sure that they bring the very best of themselves to that essay. In addition to that, I think that multiple drafts
I shouldn't just start writing it at 11 o'clock at night before it's due at 11:59. Yeah.
No revisions. Yeah. Or there are times when I hear students say things that you don't want to tell an admissions officer. You don't talk about something too personal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you want to talk about an eating disorder, talk about recovering from it, or maybe leave it out and talk about something else.
Right. And that's a tough thing for students. I mean, in my experience, sometimes it's hard enough just to draw a student out to be willing to talk about something personal at all. And then you don't want to kind of squelch that, but you have to give that clear message. This is about your resilience, or this is about your growth. Right. We don't want to see your dirty laundry that you shoved under the bed when you were supposed to be cleaning your room. Don't show us the terrible secrets you have. As you're saying, show us how you grew from these experiences. Yeah. And planning. I mean, you were talking about revising on the end part of it, but good planning to begin with makes a huge difference as well. And how far ahead of time would you advise students to get started thinking about the essays?
I start my essays over the summer with my juniors. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense, because for the Common App, you have to wait. They sometimes update the questions in spring, and you have to wait for the latest version.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of times when we're kind of up against it, but I can get them brainstorming pretty early. and then
Yeah.
just the prompt we get going. I like to take as much off workly in senior year as possible.
Yeah.
So I make sure that the essays are not the one thing that's weighing them down. Because as you know, each private school usually has its own essay and supplemental.
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, it's a terrible feeling, but I've seen that panic look across the students' faces when they have, 10 or 15 schools they're really excited about applying to, and then they look at the number of supplemental essays they think they'll have to write, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I guess University X, I'm okay, I don't need to apply there, and you start narrowing it down. But that's I don't know, it's maybe a good way to narrow it down too. If you go, I'm not willing to write that supplementary essay, okay, then you don't want to go there.
It's interesting when I see a student pick 10 private schools, because on the common application, because I know how much work goes into each one of those schools. It's hours and hours and hours of prep.
So I know this is going to be an impossible question to answer, but is there on average a number of schools you recommend students apply to? I know it's got to vary depending on, whether those schools are reach or they're, the students likely to get in.
8 to 10.
Okay.
8 to 10 is the gold standard. And then I like 3 to 4 callback, 3 to 4 stage, and 2 to 3 reach. I realize that may not equal
Yeah. I hear you. I gotcha. But those, actually, I think that's really helpful for parents to hear, probably the breakdown of which one should be your reach schools versus your pretty sure you're going to get in schools.
Okay.
And is that a good place to start? I mean, you were talking about starting with planning in, freshman or sophomore year, thinking about career paths and thinking about test prep. Where in the process should choosing schools come in? Should that be at the beginning or somewhere in the middle?
It's a long process for me to choose the schools for my students. I usually have to cross-reference several different factors. I take in what the kid wants to major in, GPA, test scores, sports, geographic location, financial, big financial.
Yeah.
And I kind of cross all that, and then you've got to come up with 8 to 10.
That sounds like an enormous Venn diagram.
Yeah, it's actually fun if it's your job. It would be maddening if I had a full-time job doing, I don't know, something else, right? And then I came home at the end of the day and I was trying to spend hours researching all these schools.
And I'm sure parents must also have an emotional component that probably makes it more difficult too. So, for example, some parents, might have their heart set on a particular school for their student, and the reality check that it's not a great fit for whatever reason, from financial to grades to even they don't specialize in the career path that your student has, and there's a better option. That must be a hard one as a parent to let go of. Oh, my student is not going to end up at my alma mater or at the school I think is so great. Do you ever get? How do you help a parent to see, if you need to, that a school might not be a good fit?
Navigating that is always a challenge. And
yeah.
I just try to I work with the student.
Right.
And the conversation between mom and dad and student that's a family thing. And I just give them the information and I let them sort through it. But I do all the research and I give them the facts and I encourage them to go visit it together. Fun family activity. But yeah, it's totally up to them.
Yeah. But it sounds like then you might have a really helpful role to help kind of break up the tension, because sometimes it must happen too that the student wants one direction and the parent wants another, and you come in as an objective person, right? You don't have a horse in the race. You don't have an emotional investment in which school. You're saying, here are the facts, based on your stats and your interests, this looks like what will work. That sounds like it would be a really relieving kind of experience for kids and parents, so they're not just going after one another based on the emotion.
It is, except I don't have to vote either.
Sure, but you're the neutral party. Yeah, you're the neutral party. Yeah.
I'm here to work with them and give them information. And yeah, I mean, if they asked me, I still wouldn't say anything. I can't somebody's future, and I'm aware of how important it is that everybody sort of chooses their own path.
And the other side of the fact that there are so many kids applying to school is that now there are so many colleges, and in so many senses, I feel like there are better choices and better fits, but you're going to have a really good education so many of the places you go. And I find a lot of parents are worried, or students are worried, oh, if I don't go to that one school, then I'll never be able to get the job I want. And we all know that's not the reality, that we all have kind of meandering paths toward the careers that we end up in. And it wasn't, I took this class, that class, and that class in college, and then bam, So
yeah, they don't have that long sighted,
yeah, but that could be encouraging, I think.
There's something to be said for the alma mater of different schools in terms of alumni associations.
Oh,
There's connections you make at school, so it does matter. But I get your point. They find their way, and I think a hardworking student is going to thrive in a school that's not necessarily a big fancy branding school.
Right.
So it's not USD, but it's a small private school. The class ratio is small. The quality of the program that they're applying to is high. So I get what you mean.
Yeah, and different fits for different students. And absolutely, as you were saying, it's a very personal decision. It's something families have to figure out for themselves.
Yeah.
So is there anything you wanted to add, any more, another tip or advice for parents, a place to start, or something that we didn't cover just before we open it up to any questions we might have?
Before I started doing this for a living, I didn't realize how much it had changed. I didn't realize how elaborate, it's labyrinthian, how the process has become. When I went to college, I applied, I go in, boom.
Yeah.
And now, 55,000 students applied to Cal Poly. This is the university in my town.
Just this past year?
Yeah.
Like in 1 year, 55,000?
Post that little link down there. 55,000. And 5,000 got accepted.
Wow.
It's intense, It really has, the game's changed. So it's interesting when I talk with parents, they go, we want to do your songs. And I go, do you really? This is my full-time job. I do this for hours, researching it. I have software that I buy and I spend tons of time career planning. And then, like I said, cross-sectioning. And then putting together a plan for a kid, and that you haven't even started applying.
Right. That's just all getting the schools that you should be applying to set up in a position. Yeah, wow.
You can't just throw a dart. You've got to really put some effort into it. And if you don't have time, get some help. Whether it's from the school counselor or band of moms or whatever, or dad. I don't want to be gender biased. So,
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I want to open it up to questions. If anybody wants to jump in with a question, do you want to unlock that seat for us, Kym? You want to hit unlock on that? And if anybody would like to jump in and ask a question, we have an open seat. You can also put a question into the chat. Meanwhile, let's see. Our Facebook follows are both up the side, and you can follow us on Twitter as well. And let's see. I've also got, if families are interested, a freebie that I'm offering, which is a college application checklist. It's a way to get started and just some action steps that you could take with some links in the doc. So, how do I start looking at a FAFSA and filling that out? Or where can I go to find out how to send my scores to my school? So kind of an all-in-one nuts and bolts, not the exciting stuff that Kym is talking about, how to find the right school and do the career path, but just more, as I said, the nuts and bolts of where you can get some information and take action right now. Okay, so let's see. Did anyone want to jump in? We got this open seat. Looks like maybe not. Or type a question in. All right. Well, I don't know. Anybody out there? I'm just wanted to give people another chance if they wanted to get in on this conversation. Yeah, but it kind of reminds me of the difference between, for businesses, advertising, about 10 years ago and advertising now. Like if you think about when social media, when Facebook and Twitter first started being used, there were so few people on there that you could get noticed if you did anything, right? And now there are multi-million-dollar companies whose sole purpose is they will help you do your social media advertising campaign. And it's really not something that people have time for anymore. If you're a big business, there's no way you could sit there and get in touch with all of your followers. It's a totally separate, they have to create a new branch. And similarly with, maybe not the perfect analogy, but similarly with the college applications, right? It's so complex and has so many moving parts now. It's very difficult to do it yourself. And why would you want to? Why would you take that on when you're not going to be able to give it the attention it needs, right?
So it reminds me of doing taxes.
Oh, yes.
If you have a TurboTax, you're a W-2, straightforward, blah, 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 great. But if you have two homes and the more elaborate you get, the more you help. So
right.
You have
and similarly, if something goes wrong, it's really bad.
Oh yeah.
Right? This is a high stakes kind of endeavor. And you're just like, oh man, one mistake on your taxes and knock, knock, you owe us lots of money, or knock, knock, you've missed the deadline for a really great school that your student would have done well in.
Yeah, I have a scholarship workshop that I put on, and the students I do it twice a year, and the students are always amazed. They're like, we hadn't come in here, we would have missed this money.
Wow, and do you have those dates scheduled yet, or how can people find out about your scholarship workshop?
I do. I have one in the summer, and I have one in the winter. So I don't have the exact date yet. My next thing is a resume workshop.
Okay, great. So what would be the best way for people to stay on top of the workshops and the events that you have coming up?
Well, you can follow us on Facebook. That's great.
Through the Facebook page. Okay.
And then I probably will put my business card or my number down there, and you can give me a call. And then my website should be up by the end of the week. So. Okay.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's exciting. But through the Facebook, then people can find where the new website is and get those dates. All right. Fantastic. Well, it looks like we don't have questions, so I think I want to just say thank you so much for your time, Kym, and for answering these questions that I know I get from my writing families, and I don't know how to answer. So I'm so grateful that you were here to answer them, and we got to hear it directly from you. And yeah, we're looking forward to, if anybody has comments, to let us know what are some other topics you want to hear about. We could, take those into consideration. So if there was a topic you were hoping to hear about we didn't cover, or something else related to college applications and career planning, let us know. All right. Any final tips, encouragement you have for parents?
Just do the best you can, and if you need help, go get it. Get it early.
There you go. That's great advice. When you need help, get it. I like that. Okay, well, thank you so much, Kym, and thanks everybody who tuned in. And I guess you've got the stop recording button, so you can send us off. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.